Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Woodbine Play of the Day. For Saturday, October the 13th, I'm Dan Illman, along with Woodbine racing analyst Jeff Bratt, and let's take a look at the field for our Woodbine race of the day. It is also the DRF race of the day, and you can access free Formulator Pass performances for the prestigious Grade 1 Pattison Canadian International on the Race of the Day event page at drf.com. Download them, handicap along with us. We're going to take this field in post position order. Jeff, this is truly an international affair. You've got horses that made their most recent starts in Canada, Sweden, Germany, the U.S., and England. This is a great betting race.
It is a fantastic betting race, and it's part of a late pick four that will have a guaranteed pool of $200,000 as well. We'll start off in race number 8, and of course you do get the Pattison Canadian International in it. And you know what? It's all about turf condition for me too, Dan, because we had a lot of rain last week. It is a little bit hotter this week. We might get some rain on Thursday evening, but that's about it for the forecast. And the rain could have a big impact on a horse by the name of Khan that we'll get to in a little bit later on when we handicap this race. But I think the inside portion of the turf course will be prime real estate because that portion of the turf course has not been used since the Woodbine Mile, whereas the outside portions of the course have been used quite heavily.
So the inside portion could help the number one mark it off, although softer ground might work against this horse. He does not have a lot of experience on turf courses rated less than firm. I thought he ran just fine last time out in the Northern Dancer at a big price, only beaten a length, but you have to wonder if he classes up here. Every time he steps up into graded stakes competition, he finds 1 or 2 or 3 just a little better. But a good trip should be coming from the inside post, and the price will be right.
Right, and I think the one thing that we found out for sure was he liked this course last time. He ran probably one of the best races he's run in quite a long time, as a matter of fact. They missed some time with him. They came back in an optional claimer at Saratoga, kind of just a so-so effort, but he ran a lot better last time out. But the Northern Dance, the local prep, I don't know what to make of that race because so many horses were so close together when everything was all said and done in that event.
The number 2 is Thundering Blue, and this horse scored in a Group 3 race as an odds-on favorite in Sweden last time out. Now, I don't know what he was beating in that race, but 2 starts back in the Group 1 Juddmonte International, he was actually supplemented to that race despite being a 50-to-1 chance, and he vindicated his connections confidence by running a great third. And his prior effort was a good effort in a Group 2. He draws a comfortable inside post position, and you got to think this horse is a major contender, although if he goes off at a shortish price, I'm not sure he has such an edge that I want to go rushing to the windows to bet him to win.
I always find it interesting that you get exchange rates that can go 1.5 miles, and we've got that here with this horse. But speaking with some of the connections, this is not the best of travelers, so that's why he hasn't traveled a lot in his racing career. But what I do like, he's won in a variety of different types of courses, small turns, big turns, and he does get that nice inside draw. I would agree with you, though. I wouldn't take too low of a price. I think this is a race that you can have a little bit of fun with, as a matter of fact.
The aforementioned number 3, Kahn, won a very prestigious race in Germany last time out, but he had several things go his way. One, that course was a bog. It was reminiscent of last year's Pattison Canadian International. Yes. And this horse really appreciated it, while the odds-on favorite just did not show up. Plus, I thought he got a really good trip close to the pace. The inside opened up. He shot on through. This is a horse that was 20-to-1 for a reason in that spot, but if he catches soft ground, maybe he can surprise again.
That's just it. So watch the weather forecast. That's how I would handicap this horse. And Dan, it's something that I have not seen in a long time. I don't know if I've ever seen it in a flat race. There was no starting gate for that most recent race. They just said, just go. And the horse was able to win rather nicely by about 6 lengths. And so, yeah, to me, it's all about giving ground. The softer, the better. And I still think he'll get a bit of a price too, because I'm not too sure too many people are a believer of that last race at odds of 20-to-1. And we will have a starting gate, by the way, at Woodbine coming up this weekend.
And it looked like he had an equipment change for that last race where he had cheek pieces on. I think it was for the first time. Maybe that helped get this horse focused a little bit, and he seems a bit tactical, but you're right, the ground is the thing for Kahn. The number 4 is Fantastic, one of 2 in here for Chad Brown. This horse wired him in the UN 2 starts back, and I just thought he got away with a nice, easy early lead and a great ride by Antonio Gallardo, who stretched them out at just the right time. Last time out in the Sword Dancer, he didn't make the lead. It was a race that was controlled up front by Glorious Empire and Channelmaker. But I just didn't like the fact that he backed up in the stretch, and I have some concerns about him against this company.
I have some concerns about the next door neighbor too if he wants to show speed, and that's being Tiz Slam. It's probably going to show some speed as well. So these two horses might be setting a pretty hot pace in here. Just reading some comments from Chad Brown about the last race. He got banged up pretty good in that last race. Needed some stitches after that last event, so it was not a good day. But still, I'm trying to figure out where that United Nations performance came from. As you said, just got brave on the front end. I think there's going to be a little bit more pressure, though, coming up this weekend.
Talking about getting brave on the front end, Tiz Slam did just that when beating Johnny Bear in the Nijinsky 3 starts back. And all things considered, I thought his Northern Dancer was good because I thought that was a really solid pace that he was prompting. He eventually took over the lead. He dug in. He was only beaten 2 lengths. I thought Johnny Bear and Mektal and English Illusion, these were horses that were benefited by the race flow coming from the back of the pack. I can give Tiz Slam some extra points in here. And if Fantastic isn't aggressively ridden, and if Bandua is not aggressively ridden, maybe Tiz Slam gets loose again at a price.
Quite possible, and it didn't hurt or didn't help out this horse's chances last time out that you're dealing with Hawkbill, who was the race favorites, and Hawkbill takes you wide on the first turn, and all of a sudden both horses are a little bit too keened up. And as you said, when you look back at that last race, after all that activity, Hawkbill finishes way up the track. This horse only loses by about 2 lengths. Spring Quality is another horse that you might want to handicap for course condition. This horse, it looked like, was coming into career form into the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic last time out. Off 4 consecutive triple-digit buyers, 2 graded stakes wins, 1 grade 1 win in the Manhattan on the Belmont Stakes undercard, and he just never seemed comfortable at all over that softish ground. I think it's a great sign that Graham Motion is wheeling this horse back. He felt he got nothing out of that last race, but if he gets soft ground again, I'm not sure I can trust him. He's a good horse, though. No, what happens, Dan, if we get like an intermediate condition? A little bit of give, but not a lot of give. You know, some of these horses are going to be, well, I don't know. But with Spring Quality, I think he definitely wants it firm when you come into this race off that defeat last time. And Graham said, listen, clearly the horse didn't like the grass because other than that, on that day, that turf course was just so soft. Other than that, they couldn't find a legitimate excuse for this one. If he brings his A game, he's a key contender, but you need firm conditions for this horse. What a great claim English Illusion was for $45,000 3 starts back. All he's done since then is win the restricted Halton, 100 grander, and then run a good third in the Northern Dancer, although I do think the pace scenario really helped him out in that race, and I'm not sure he's going to get similar situation here. He's a nice horse, and again, I could use him underneath. He won a very controversial edition of the Halton, as a matter of fact. He took out Johnny Bear pretty good. That was a lengthy inquiry, and then Johnny Bear was able to turn the tables on him last time out. This trainer, if you look up his ROI in turf races at Woodbine, it's off the charts. He brings in big price after big price. I would use the horse on my superfecta. Bandua is a 3-year-old taking on Elders. He was actually under consideration for the Belmont Stakes for a while before they re-opted for the Secretariat, going 1.25 miles. He ran fine in the Secretariat, although you have to remember that that race was won by a gigantic long shot in Carrick. And last time out in the Dueling Grounds Derby, I was so surprised how forwardly placed he was in that race. I'm not sure that's really his running style. I know that they say 1.5 miles is what he wants. He's also by the factor. I'm not sure that's what the factors want. But I think this horse has some upside ability. He caught a sharp horse in Channel Cat who came back to win with a 95 buyer at Laurel. I still think this is a bit of a big ask. Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think what the Secretariat, that pace was swift. And he wasn't on the engine, but he was very close to it. And then Kentucky Downs last time out, he did just win as the favorites. He's kind of a big galloping horse, and I think he would really like kind of just a slow, sedate pace to have a chance to do some damage in here. But I'm going to go in a different direction. Johnny Bear beat 3 of these common foes in the Northern Dancer, repeating for the 2nd year in a row. And he's just a cool horse. Listen, he shows up each and every time, and sometimes it's good enough at a big number. He did get that nice pace set up in the Northern Dancer, and I do wonder if he kind of prefers a little bit more a firm ground than off. But listen, in the form he's in right now and the price he's going to be, Johnny Bear can certainly win this race. Yeah, I know his last attempt at the Patterson Canadian International was not great, but that was, as you said, under boggy conditions. So just draw a line through that. He's in great form right now. And in these big races, he totally gets ignored. A local horse has not won this race, though, for a long, I think it was Thornfield who was the last local winner of this event. So we'll see if he can bring one home for the home side. Of the European invaders, I might be most interested in Desert Encounter, who's getting Lasix for the first time, 3rd in a little Group 3 over soft going. He seems to handle any kind of ground. I think he's a rather consistent horse. He's really not been Group 1 class overseas, but he may not need to be to contend in a race like this. It is a good betting race, but he has a tough outside post position. He does. His best asset is his consistency. He rarely runs a bad race. Now he gets on to Lasix. When do you see horses welting like he did 2 starts ago and be able to pull off a victory? I mean, that was very, very surprising. Then last time out, he ran quite well at Newbury, as a matter of fact, too. This was a really lightly raced horse early on in his career. Seems to be getting better. Very consistent. I don't think the horse is like a world beater down the line, but I would love to have this horse in my shed row, no doubt about that.
Perhaps the mitigating factor for the outside post for both the 10 and the 11 focus group is that these horses have no early speed. And it's likely they're just going to drop back, get as close to the inside as possible, and then hope for the best. Hope for a hot pace, hope for a good trip. That's certainly the case, I think, and for Jose Ortiz's plan concerning focus group. This horse kicked like a mule last time out in the John's Call. He turned into the stretch last with a quarter-mile to go and inhaled everybody. Yes, it was not the strongest race in the world, but Rocketry came back to earn a 100 buyer speed figure on dirt when winning the Temperance Hill. I think this horse has some upside. He has a big kick, and he might be a good price.
And it's getting better with each and every race. That's what I like right now. We're really starting to get into good form. You look at the numbers, 89 to 96, 96 to 100. And as you said, the John's Call is a very restricted race. It was an interestingly run affair, to say the least. But this horse, as you said, was able to pick him up and lay him down. Pace scenario, what do you think? I mean, how hot is the pace going to be for a horse like this? It all depends on those 2 horses from post positions 4 and 5 to see how fast we're going to go up front. I think focus group might be a little bit pace dependent.
Interestingly enough, though, the other pace is also trained by Chad Brown, and that is fantastic. And maybe fantastic does push Tiz Islam just a little bit to at least give focus group a little bit more of a chance. I love the way he kicked in the stretch. He's going to be my top pick at a decent price in the Canadian International. Who are you going with?
I am going to go towards Thundering Blue in here. I just think the post position is fantastic from post position number 2. I do echo your sentiments about the price. I'm a little bit leery the horse might be a little bit too low. But if you finish third against Roaring Lion and Poet's Word, I should say, maybe that's handicapping done for you right then and there.
He is certainly classy enough to win this race, and you make a great point about the inside perhaps being the better path on Saturday. He's very dangerous. Jeff, great stuff as always. We're really looking forward to the Pattison Canadian International. Not only is it our Saturday Woodbine play of the day, part of a really strong pick 4 sequence, but it's also our Saturday DRF race of the day. And again, those free Formulator Pass performances are available on the Race of the Day event page on DRF.com. Best of luck.